If you don't believe in conspiracies, you might believe in them when I tell you that this individual who started a TikTok account was just given permission to interview President Joe Biden. Now, what's strange about that? President Joe Biden doesn't give interviews. President Joe Biden has barely given any interviews. He didn't even campaign, really. Remember COVID, so you can't ever see me out in front of a crowd ever because I'm just afraid. But I am, trust me, the most popular American president of all time. I did truly get, but you've never seen a single crowd of people around me that weren't booing. Somewhere in America, there are 88 million people who do love him. He vlogged his experience, his entire day leading up to the moment where he sat down with President Biden. So here is Dylan Mulvaney dressing up like a woman and taking you through every aspect of his day.
It's day 222 of being a girl. I'm in Washington, D.C., and I'm going to the White House to speak to the President of the United States. Oh, you know that phrase, I fear I may have girl bossed too close to the sun? Well, that's how I feel today, because I get to sit down with Joe Biden and now this news, and I get to ask him a few questions surrounding trans issues in the United States and talk to him about my transness. And I really just want to represent my community the best that I can. And you know what? As silly as I am on here, I'm ready to step up and show that trans people are not going anywhere. And that trans kids, they deserve a fighting chance to be their true selves. Okay? Oh my God, I'm running late. Let's go. And y'all are obviously wondering what I'm going to wear to meet the president. There you go. It's the trans flag colors. Cute, right? It's the heels. Okay, Dylan, you're gonna be great. I love you. Let's go. Come on. Do you think I just knock on the front door?
Looking for the president's dog.
Our queen. Love you. I love you. We're about to go. Is there anything I can...
Leaving on cloud 9.
The President of the United States gave me a cookie. He gave me a cookie in the Oval Office. Now here's the question. Do I eat it? Or do I save it as a seal? Please honestly tell me. Everyone, I got to pet the dog. I got to pet his dog. I'm still in shock, and don't be mad, but I don't get to post any of the footage until after the interview airs on Sunday night. But it's going to be worth it because I can't wait for you to hear everything we talked about. I left out a lot of hope and optimism, not only for just trans people, but many different topics. And the fact that our president has watched Days of Girlhood, it's kind of epic. And I'm not going to lie, I've been having a rough go of it lately. A lot of darkness. And today was what I needed to keep going. Also, if you live in the U.S. and can legally vote, this is going to be one of the most important elections of our lifetimes. So please get out and vote next month. There is so much darkness in this world. I mean, sometimes the bad actually outweighs the good, but we have to get in the mud right now. And we're going to clean up some messes that have needed cleaning for hundreds of years. And we've got to protect each other. And I have your back, and I really hope you have mine, and I love you. God bless America. Oh, say can you? Okay, love y'all.
Now, Biden, who doesn't even know that he is president, still believes that he is vice president, did sit down and speak on trans rights with Dylan Mulvaney. Dylan Mulvaney asked the president some very simple questions. Do you think that states should be stopping people from mutilating their children? And here's what President Biden had to say about that to Dylan.
Do you think states should have a right to ban gender-affirming health care?
I don't think any state or anybody should have the right to do that. As a moral question and as a legal question. I just think it's wrong.
So as a moral question and as a legal question, President Joe Biden thinks that people should be allowed to mutilate their children. That's what he believes, right? And I guess we're calling it gender reassignment surgery because it sounds fluffy. And sometimes a porcelain urinal can really literally be art, except it's not. It's a porcelain urinal. And what you are doing is you are mutilating your children's bodies, and those children suffer for the rest of their lives. The rest of their lives. They wake up one day and they realize that this idea was planted in their head by a society, a culture, a poisonous culture that told them that this was so, that up was down, that they could wake up one day and just think it and therefore be it. Do you want to be a butterfly? You're a butterfly. They put you under the knife and put wings on you because you're a butterfly. You want to be a mermaid? You're a mermaid. Let me sew your legs together and tell you that it's just one long fin. course, it is a delusion, but it is now a delusion that is trickling down from the very top of our society. The President of the United States is saying it is wrong for states to stand up and ban these procedures, right? If he was trying to play it in the middle, maybe he'd say, wait until you're 18. I think it's great. I think it's all great, and I believe in being trans, but maybe wait until you're 18. He's saying, no. Do it when you're 6. A state should allow parents to make these decisions for their children when they're 6 years old, knowing that they'll never be sexually reproductive ever again. These individuals are speaking out all the time. People that are saying they have deep regret because doctors allow them to go on with this lie. I have interviewed these people. I have spoken with them. These people commit to a lifetime of big pharma drugs because they're in pain. It causes early osteoporosis, among other things, which Matt Walsh showed in his documentary, What is a Woman? It's just a terrible, terrible thing that we have going on in our society. You have a bunch of people that are cowards. And of course, Biden supports this because he is the state. The point of the state is to grow the state. And what better way to grow the state than to produce a bunch of pregnant children, right? You're experimenting with them. Are causing them to become dependent on the state. Medicaid is what they need, right? I need to have the government be able to afford all of this medicine that I now need because I allowed somebody to experiment on my body. Not that you allowed someone because your parents allowed this to happen, or just an even deeper sin and a deeper crime. And I believe that we are going to, in the future, see a lot of... lawsuits, children against their own parents, children against doctors. They're already happening quietly, but we're going to be hearing about them a lot more soon. Speaking of Matt Walsh and his documentary, you know he's passionate against this. On Friday, Matt held the Rally to End Child Mutilation at the Tennessee State Capitol to send a message to lawmakers everywhere that radical experimentation is not medical care. And of course, the libs were angry. The protest was huge. People came out to really support this. And then there was a smaller faction of individuals that just could not believe, how dare you? How do you not understand how important it is for us to mutilate children? And here are some of those protesters who came out to confront Matt Walsh.
He's a far-right lunatic propagandist. If you support anything he fucking says, you are indoctrinating everyone you know into being a Nazi. Matt Walsh is a sarcastic terrorist. They can be gay. It's not they can be gay. That's fine. That's why you don't push things on people while they're a child.
So Matt Walsh is a Nazi. That's the idea, right? I thought it was actually the Nazis that were into experimentation. Pretty sure Hitler had a lot of experiments that were taking place. He experimented on twins. He experimented on children. So no, you are not on the right side of this issue. In fact, I would never, ever want somebody reporting me supporting that. Radically supporting gender mutilation, gender reassignment surgery by another name. It is a stunning rebuke of our society that people don't recognize this as wrong. You know, it's incredible that people can become such ideologues that they are committed to this as if it's a cult and it's a religion, right? They wake up every day and they say, I have to get down to the state capitol and I need to stand up to this man who's essentially saying what Matt Walsh is saying is allow children to grow up. Right? Allow children to become adults. Or an adult, if you want to mutilate your own body, it's not really my business, right? It really is my business. But the idea that we should be seeding children with the notion that it's a lie, by the way. It is a lie to tell a child that they can pick their gender. It is a lie to make a man believe that if he gets breast implants, he's suddenly a woman.
Don't go
right?
down there. I don't know
Despite the fact that we know that it is a lie, from the top to the bottom of our society and our culture, we are perpetuating this lie to the detriment of young children.
All right.
All right, guys, that's all the topics that we're going to cover today. Now I'm going to jump right into your comments. You know I love to read the comments that you leave on the show. I find them on YouTube. I find them on Instagram. Here are just a few.
What kind of stuff you got?
Last week, obviously, we talked about music and how music is going down the drain. We talked about that a little bit today. This is a comment from Annabelle. She writes, Crazy Bone, the rap artist, had a podcast where he was talking about recording companies getting together and consciously deciding to send rap in a more violent direction after investing in private prisons. There's also the rumor that the 1960s anti-war protesting counterculture, drugs and rock and roll, was infiltrated by social engineering in order to discredit and radicalize the mostly straight, not on drug students who didn't want to be drafted or have their family members drafted into Vietnam. The music was a huge part of that. Listen, I can't speak to any of those conspiracies, but these things seem like facts to me. It is just not plausible that Hollywood is always in lockstep with telling people to do bad things, terrible things, right? If you speak to the typical person in Hollywood, they're pro-trans. Why are you pro-trans? Why on earth could you be sending a signal that this is a healthy thing to do, right? And that's why I always say Hollywood is satanic. I think it's the reason that the Bible preaches against idolatry is because you can love someone, you can love their music, and you can enjoy their music once upon a time, like with Taylor Swift. But then Taylor Swift gets on a platform and tells you abort your children, and suddenly you're like, yeah, I'm going to do it because Taylor Swift said to do it, and not because it makes any sense. These are false idols. These are false gods that we've created in our own head. So it makes sense to me that our political figures understand that. It's why they go to celebrities like Beyonce and Jay-Z and like Taylor Swift when they want a message delivered to the masses, no matter how harmful the message itself is. So that would not surprise me were it all true. Next is a comment from Charles D. He says, we left the 60s with a music resume that included far more unity and love in lyrics that we listened to. The 70s prepared us for drugs, guns, and crime through cinema. Then hip-hop became the next attack on our culture, and parents protested, ultimately losing to the freedom of speech and surrendering to parental advisory stickers. The 90s bought us the internet, and the exploitation of that quickly took off, and now the 2020s have just made us, as she says, angry. The use of all social media has made people attacking each other for profit, mainly because we have been on this negative train that left the station in the 1960s. Everything is coming at a cost, and everyone is going to have to pay for it later. I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, I miss the music of a generation that I wasn't even a part of. And you just listen to it when you listen to your parents' music, my parents' music. I always talk about how I grew up listening to The Temptations and watching Family Matters and even The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, The Cosby Show, Nick at Night, really. There were good messages, right? People aspired to have their families together. They didn't aspire to perversity. And now we're not only just aspiring towards perversity, but we are treating things that are whole and that are good as if they're bad, as if they should be rejected. What's wrong with you? Why don't you have something wrong with you is almost the question. How dare you just be a straight white male? That's not allowed. You gotta have something going on, right? It's just completely not allowed to have that. And now it's not enough to even be a black straight male. They're trying to send this signal now amongst Black America and Black music that men should wear dresses. You got the Harry Styles gender bending ideas that are coming out of Hollywood. So you are correct. And best thing that we can do is hope that people feel so empty on the inside, because they do. When you see these protesters screaming in the streets, like they scream at Matt Walsh, you can hope that they are so empty and they're in search of something to fill their spirit, and that they recognize goodness when they see it. And all we can do is keep talking about goodness, keep talking about a more whole society, keep talking about a more aspirational society to send out a different frequency than the ones that they are catching right now in the mainstream media. Lastly, we have a comment in response to that TikToker that I showed you guys last week who put their uterus in a jar because how cool, I got my uterus taken out, I'm trans. Nicole wrote, privilege is a spectrum, and I'll say someone that has the time, money, and obsession with themselves to jar and display their own uterus is certainly up near the top of the privilege spectrum. I'll also say this, Nicole, it's top near the narcissist spectrum, and that's what social media has created, a society of narcissists. They're obsessed with themselves. They're looking at themselves. They want you to see themselves, and they want you to like themselves. and they're constantly trying to perfect themselves. They believe that they are their own gods. In response to that same story, Drees World writes, I couldn't even get my tonsils back, which I asked for multiple times before surgery. I am concerned how this was possible. I didn't even think about that, how strange it was the person had their uterus in the jar. I mean, I guess it is yours. Technically, you could ask for it, but for it to be displayed in that way, and for that person then be on TikTok pretending that it was cool that they were holding their uterus, yeah, there are a lot of questions that should be asked about that. It's very clear that the trans ecosystem that is being built culturally is at the forefront of our societal discussions today. And it makes me pretty sick. It should make you pretty sick. And that's all I have to say about that. All right, guys, you know the next portion of the show is going to be available exclusively on Daily Wire Plus. So if you're not a member yet, go ahead and click the link in the description. Subscribe right now.
Cream, V. Exactly the tech I wanted. Thanks. Gig closed.
Organic food continues to be a major conflict. Do not eat illegal cannabis.
Come to Lizzie's to home to Night City's hottest, realest ladies.
talking about?
What's happening, guys? Supernova here, back with another video. Just a reminder, I'm still doing a giveaway for a PS5 Disc Edition, but Time to Win is running out because I'm going to be selecting a winner the first week of November. So if you'd like to be eligible to win, all you have to do is sign up for my Patreon at the $10 level, and like I said, I'll be picking the winner first week of November so I can get it shipped out to them in time for Christmas. Links in the description. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into this review. I gotta say, when I first saw Gotham Knights, when I first saw gameplay a while back, I was interested, right? The game looked interesting to me. It looked like it would be a fun time. Didn't look like it was doing anything crazy or anything mind-blowing, but like I said, it looked like a fun time, and it was a game that I was looking forward to playing. And then the reviews came out, and it seemed that almost every reviewer hated this game, was talking about how bad this game is, how terrible this game is, how you shouldn't buy this game, recommended not buying this game. And I just gotta say, for me, just like Tony Soprano talking to Paulie Walnuts in the intro, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Because for me, Gotham Knights was a great game. I enjoyed Gotham Knights. Again, was it amazing? No. Was it blowing me away at every turn? No. But it doesn't change the fact that for me, it was a great game that I actually enjoyed playing more than I thought I would. And I just don't know what game these professional reviewers played, because the game I played I thought was great. The only thing I can think of is maybe they played as the wrong character, because in Gotham Knights there are 4 Gotham Knights, 4 playable characters that you can play at any time, swap out at any time, and those 4 characters are Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood. And they all play very differently. When I say very, I do mean very differently. Their fighting mechanics are all very different. Their traversal mechanics are all very different and unique to each character, to the point where, depending on what character you're playing as, the time trials and the swap out at any time. And those 4 characters are Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood. And they all play very differently. When I say very, I do mean very differently. Their fighting mechanics are all very different. Their traversal mechanics are all very different and unique to each character, to the point where, depending on what character you're playing as, the time trials in the open world are completely different, because their traversal mechanics are completely different. And I think that playing as certain characters, like if someone started off as a certain character and decided they were going to play the whole way through as that character, I think the game could have not been as fun for them had they picked another character. Like, I played the game as Batgirl, and I honestly think that that was the best choice, at least for me, because I felt that Batgirl has the best combination of both fighting mechanics and traversal mechanics. Because for some of these characters, I think the traversal mechanics are horrible. Like Robin's traversal mechanic, I think is absolute dog shit. It's not fun to use. It's just, I don't like it. His traversal mechanic is a teleportation. It's hard to explain. You'd have to actually see it or play it, but trust me, Robin's traversal mechanic is by far the worst of all of them, in my opinion. But I'm getting ahead of myself with the characters. We'll come back to the characters. I want to first start talking about the game, and let's talk about the elephant in the room regarding this game, right? Because I played on console, I played on PlayStation 5, and what's the big elephant in the room surrounding this game and consoles? Gas! It's locked at 30 frames per second. Oh, the amount of videos I've seen of people just crying about this game being locked at 30 frames per second. Like, if they were to play this game at 30 frames per second, their fucking eyes would bleed and fucking explode inside their heads. Or like, if they were to play this game at 30 frames per second, they would catch the fucking eye equivalent of fucking gonorrhea or some shit. Like, I don't understand what the big fucking deal is. Okay, like, I get it. Options are nice, and it would be nice to have a performance mode that does 60 frames per second. I get it. I know there are lots of people out there that they want to play on at least 60 frames per second, and they don't want to play on anything less than that. I get it. Alright? But I'm here to tell you, I played this game at the ungodly 30 frames per second, and guess what? My eyes, they still fucking work. Okay? Like, let's be real for a second, right? Let's be real for a second. These same reviewers, these same people, played games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Uncharted 4, God of War, and Spider-Man Last Generation on PlayStation 4, games that were all locked at 30, and that somehow didn't deter them from loving these games, that somehow didn't deter them from enjoying these games, that somehow didn't deter them from saying these are some of the greatest games of the generation, from saying that God of War is one of the greatest games ever made. That lock 30 somehow wasn't a hindrance when they played these games. Now all of a sudden the games can do 60, now they're fucking frame rate snobs, right? Like, I don't understand why this was such a big fucking deal. Do I understand why the game is locked at 30? No, I don't. Do I think it should be able to do 60? Yes, I do. Am I a developer? No. I don't know what the reason is. I don't know if the reason that WB Montreal gave us is a legit reason or bullshit. I don't know. All I know is that for all the piss and moaning and complaining about this game being locked at 30, I think it's a massive, massive overreaction. Because I think if you sat down and played this game at the lock 30 on console, you really wouldn't have any issues. Like, honestly, the only time I really noticed the frames dipping is anytime you would fast travel and it would play the kind of animation of the beginning of the fast travel. That was the only time you saw some kind of stuttering, and then after that, it was pretty much okay. Again, I can't speak to the other consoles, but that was my experience on PS5. But anyway, now that that's out of the fucking way, let's get into the actual game and not this bullshit. First off, I want to say that this game starts off with one of the most epic opening cinematics I've seen in a long-ass while. It's this epic battle with fucking Bruce Wayne and Ra's al Ghul in the Batcave that I was like, wow, this is really fucking cool. Like, this is how the game is starting. Not a bad start. Like I said, it is honestly one of the most epic, badass opening cinematics I've seen. After that is obviously the point where you get to pick what character you're going to play as. And like I said before, 4 Gotham Knights: Batgirl, Robin, Nightwing, and Red Hood. Each character has different fighting mechanics, different weapons, and different traversal mechanics. For Batgirl, her fighting mechanics are very kind of taekwondo kicks and martial artsy type stuff, kind of almost a mix between Batman and Spider-Man, and her weapon is a tonfa. Her traversal mechanic is her cape. She can glide, and then she can grapple to things, and then jump off grapple points to continue to glide with her cape. If you're playing as Robin, Robin has a bow staff that he fights with. His combat is also very martial arts-like, very much kind of like Batgirl's. I think they both have the best fighting mechanics. I think in terms of best fighting mechanics, it goes Batgirl, then Robin, then Nightwing, then Red Hood. But Robin's traversal mechanics, in my opinion, are the worst in the game. They are a teleportation method, which to me just doesn't work well. It's not fun. It's hard to explain, but if you were to see it in motion, you'd be like, yeah, that looks weird. It's kind of like you hold the trigger that, you know, is the same to make Batgirl glide, but instead of gliding with Robin, you instantly disappear, and then you're kind of like this floating orb moving through space, and you can change elevation as you're moving through space, and then there's a timer in the corner where you can only teleport for a short distance, and once the timer is up, you'll then pop back into existence wherever you are. It's weird. It doesn't work well. I didn't have fun using it. In my opinion, it's the worst of all 4 characters. Then you have Nightwing. Nightwing has these kind of batons that he fights with. His fighting style is more kind of acrobatic, bouncing around, jumping around, but it doesn't feel fun. But his traversal mechanics are by...
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
Pop back into existence wherever you are. It's weird. It doesn't work well. I didn't have fun using it. In my opinion, it's the worst of all 4 characters. Then you have Nightwing. Nightwing has these kind of batons that he fights with. his fighting style is more kind of acrobatic, bouncing around, jumping around, but it doesn't feel fun. But his traversal mechanics are by far the best in the game because he has this mechanical glider that he hangs from. And since the mechanical glider has engines, he can actually change elevation up or down. You basically just fly around the entire map on this, mechanical glider. Whereas with Batgirl, since she's just gliding with her cape, she's constantly losing elevation, right? You can kind of dive down and then pull back up to try to gain some elevation again, but you're fighting gravity the whole time, so you're really having to grapple a lot to be able to jump off of things or grapple a higher elevation to jump off to continue to glide, and you're constantly having to do that. Glide, grapple, jump, glide some more, grapple, jump, glide some more. Whereas Nightwing's just like, fuck, I'm just gonna cruise around Gotham on my fucking mechanical glider forever, right? There's no limitations to it. And then even with Robin, with his teleportation, it's limited by time, right? It teleports you for a little bit and then boom, pops you into existence. And then you have to it's just the easiest to use. After that is Red Hood. Red Hood's fighting style, he's just kind of like a bruiser brawler, and then he has guns that he uses a lot. Like his guns are almost used more than his actual punches. And then his traversal mechanic is this thing they call Mystical Leap,